Hey, my feel good friend, and welcome to yet another mini-sode of the Feel Good Social podcast. I am so glad to be in your earbuds today, my friend, and I think you're going to find this mini-sode to be super actionable, super valuable, and super fun, especially if you are a story nerd like me and this week's guest, Shay. If you didn't listen to this week's episode, Shay is amazing. Go back and listen to that episode. She is super cool, and we chat all about brand storytelling, specifically your brand story, the big kahuna of a story that you can share on your About Me page and all the things. But for today's mini-sode, I want to dive a little bit deeper in specifically how to share your personal stories on Instagram, because Instagram is so great for sharing micro stories and major stories for sure. But just really the most important thing you can do is share personal stories to really help relate to your customers, build your know, like, and trust factor, and all those things. I can't wait to dive into this. You know I'm a storytelling nerd. So without further ado, let's do this thing. Hey, friend, and welcome to the Feel Good Social Podcast. I'm your host, Kinsey, and I'm here to help you market your business in a genuine way that works without wasting your precious time. On this show, we chat about social media strategy and mindset tips with a focus on, you guessed it, feeling good. So sit back, relax, and enjoy some genuine conversation for the good of your biz. All right, I'm going to be talking fast because this is a mini-sode and I really want you to take the information I'm sharing and run with it. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I really want to drive home is why sharing personal stories can be so powerful for your brand, especially on social media. And really, the truth of the matter is if you can share personal stories, it firstly helps you relate to your ideal customers so they feel like they're buying from a person and not just a business, okay? Sharing personal stories can really, really help to drive that deeper connection with your ideal people so they feel supported, they feel like they like you, they want to buy from you, all of those things. Your personal stories can also make your brand unique so you're standing out on the platform from all the other brands out there that are doing very similar things to what you are doing, my friend. Personal stories can really help to make you memorable and stand out in your customer's mind so that you stay top of mind to them and they want to buy from you and recommend you whenever the opportunity arises, right? The second thing that I do want to share when it comes to stories are what kind of personal stories should you be sharing on Instagram? And I have a list of just a few things. You could start brainstorming a few stories you could start thinking about sharing on Instagram. The first one is the big kahuna, your brand origin story. Again, go back and listen to episode 87 if you haven't yet with Shay, who is an expert in sharing your brand origin story and all the things. But when it comes to sharing your brand origin story, honestly, my favorite piece of advice is just to think back on why you started your business and the transformations that you have made in creating your business and how that relates to your ideal customers. What transformations do you help your ideal customers make? Have you made any of those transformations yourself? And if so, what did you learn and how has that influenced the brand that you have now built where you are helping them do the same? Those are the questions that I really like to ask when it comes to sharing my brand's origin story that I think are just so, so powerful in gaining the know, like, and trust and really compelling people to want to experience the same thing you have, right? Now, the next stories that you could share from your personal experience are any of those lessons that you've learned, right? If you've learned a lot of lessons in your business, but more specifically related to your brand and ideal customers, if there's any experience that you've had, lessons that you've learned that you know your ideal customers need to learn as well, any of those specific experiences, the times when you've had the aha moment moments, or maybe when you've done something that you've not been super proud of. And so it's changed the way that you live your life today, all those things. Any of the lessons that you've learned, especially related to your industry, brand, and your ideal customer's parallel journey, those are amazing stories to share on social media because it lets your customer know that you understand where they are, you understand where they want to go, and also it helps them to maybe learn the lessons that you had to learn without them actually having to experience it, because we've all been there, right? The next set of stories that you could totally brainstorm are around your brand values. We all have a code by which we live our life as humans, and we all have a code for our brands, the way our brands show up in the world. And so those values, for Feel Good Social, it's authenticity, it's adventure, it's being logical and down to earth and realizing what you can actually do with your time and creating a plan of attack that's doable for you. So you're not just, always on running on the hamster wheel trying to catch up with your content. These are all somewhat brand values of Feel Good Social. And these are all core themes that I could share multiple stories about, right? When it comes to authenticity, I could share so many stories about not leaning into my authenticity and feeling really shitty, if we're honest, or leaning into my authenticity and just feeling more aligned with my brand. There's tons of stories that I could share from my day-to-day life that would really help to drive those brand values home and relate to my ideal customers. What is it for you, my friend? What are your brand values? And think about personal experiences that have really helped to shape those for your brand and you as the head of your business. Those are amazing stories to share on Instagram because not only does it allow your ideal customers to know that that's one of your values, but it also shows the why behind it. And they feel more connected and aligned to you, your brand, and those values themselves, right? Now, the next set of stories that I want you to brainstorm are behind the scenes of your business. My friend, people love, love to see behind the scenes. It makes them feel like they're a part of the club of your brand. It makes them feel like they're connected to you in kind of that fun, insiders club way. And it's also just super, super interesting to see how other people live their lives. This is why reality TV is so popular, right? So think about the reality TV behind the scenes stuff that you could share for your brand. And it can be as simple as how the heck do you do your day-to-day life in your business? How the heck do you work with your clients? Showing behind the scenes of your processes, just sharing the story of the everyday in your business, whether that's all day or like a small moment in time, something specific that you're trying to accomplish. Sharing those stories really helps to drive the deeper connection with your ideal customers. And it's so easy to do. All I'm doing all day when it comes to Instagram stories is just sharing behind the scenes snippets of what the heck I'm up to all day, right? And not only does it really help to make people feel like they're friends with me and they're really on the inside club of Feel Good Social and all that stuff, but it's also just a really great way to talk about your business, talk about your brand, talk about your offers without just being promotional, like buy from me, you know what I mean? So start sharing those stories, my friend. And then the final set of stories that I really want you to brainstorm are examples of your how to and value add content, right? So value add content is really, the non-promotional tutorials and tips and fast facts, inspirational quotes, all of that stuff that a lot of us have an easy time sharing on social media, right? A lot of us could come up with 3 tips for or 5 ways to do something when it comes to our business, our brand, what we want our customers to achieve, all of those things. So I want you to take a look at the value add content that you have brainstormed and been sharing recently and think about personal examples from yourself or your ideal customers when you have implemented those tips or learned lessons that have created those tips, right? Just start brainstorming stories when it comes to your value add content. I'm trying to think of one for Feel Good Social. Let's think. Oh, okay. So recently I created a post that was like how to show your face online, right? And it was actually inspired by the podcast Minisode 17, I believe, for how to show your face online. I could share so many stories about how I used to have to use a puppy filter, the filter with like the puppy ears and the puppy nose because I didn't want to show my face online, right? I could share stories about how I've in the past edited out certain features of my body because I was like super embarrassed to put them on there. I remember this is going to sound so weird, but when I was like in high school, I had a birthday party and it was like one of those dress up themed birthday parties, like a murder mystery birthday party or something. And all of my friends decided to dress up. We all had characters. I had on this like tight sweater and I put on like bright makeup and I was kind of like, I don't know if image is coming across, but I was kind of like slutty lady or something. Like just imagine that. And we took this photo. We were all sitting on the couch or whatever. And I looked at the photo and my belly was like hanging out over my jeans because we had just had like Velveeta mac and cheese. I don't know if this birthday party thing is coming across to you. But anyway, this was the first time I used Photoshop to edit myself to look better. I don't think I've ever actually shared this story with especially with you guys, but here it goes. I decided to Photoshop my stomach so that it looked a little bit flatter because, hey, I was in high school. I was like a freshman in high school and wanted to look cute for the boys and whatnot. And so that is a story that I could share when it comes to being comfortable showing up online and showing your face and all those things. I'm not exactly sure what the lesson of that story would be, except that, editing your photos in whatever way you need to edit them to be comfortable showing up online. But I do think that maybe you need to be transparent and just real and just own it yourself or something. That's probably how I would end that post. Anyway, my friend, I'm getting off on a little bit of a tangent, which leads us to our next point that I wanted to talk about, which is how to share great stories. And the first tip that I have for you for sharing great stories is to always keep the point in mind. What is the point that you're trying to make? And remember to bring your story back around to that and streamline it as much as possible, which is probably not what I just did when it came to the birthday party murder mystery story that I just shared. But anyway, when you are telling stories, it is important to know what the heck the point is you are trying to make with the story. My business coach, Michelle, calls it a "that's cool, bro" story when you start telling someone a story and it has nothing to do with them and you get to the end of the story and they're like, "Cool, bro. Like, why did you tell me that?" We want to make sure that all of your stories that you share are in some way relatable and have something to do with your ideal customer, right? Because we want them to actually pay attention to it and get something out of it. So what the heck is the point that you're trying to make with the stories that you're sharing? That is the first thing we need to think about and then keep in mind as we are telling the story, as we're rereading the story and editing our post. Make sure you have a point that your ideal customers care about. My second tip when it comes to sharing personal stories on social media and for your brand in general is to be specific with the details that you share. If you used to love a specific song from the 90s that you would play again and again and again, say the song's name, okay? If you used to love a brand of sneaker that everyone loved I always bring it back to the 90s because that's when I grew up, then say the brand name of the sneaker, okay? If you can get specific and cute and fun in the details and remember those things, that's going to bring up memories for people. That's going to help them relate to you. And then also just like make your story more interesting, right? No one wants to hear a story about how Joe Schmo did a certain thing and then blah, 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 blah. No, like they want to hear specific details to help bring them back to reality and make your story more interesting. But at the same time, we do want to empathize with your customer and make your story relatable with universal elements. So this is the third tip when it comes to storytelling, is really think, what emotions are in this story? How was I feeling? And make a statement about the emotions that you're feeling that your ideal customers can empathize with, right? So have you ever felt like you knew you needed to do something for your brand because it made sense and it really in reality wasn't that scary, but you just couldn't bring yourself to do it? That's how I feel every time I have to show up on frickin' IG Live. I get so nervous. I know I'm not going to die, but it feels like that, right? People can relate to that, my friend. So think about the universal emotions and universal themes in the stories that you're telling and just make a statement about them. Ask your ideal customer if they've ever felt them too. And that's going to draw them into your story and make them feel like they're a part of it and they're in your shoes with you, right? Okay, the final tip I have for sharing great personal stories on social media is to add some humor and personality. Okay, no one wants to just hear the monotone professor telling a boring story, blah, 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 blah. No, bring your humor into it. Make some jokes. Add a few asides. One of my favorite ways to add personality to social media captions is to add parentheses comments. Okay, and this is like aside comments that you might whisper to a friend if you were sitting in a classroom, right? If there was a story happening, a story being told, and all of a sudden you have some snarky remark that you might whisper in the ear of a friend sitting next to you, add some of those to your social media captions in parentheses. It's going to add personality to your brand. It's going to make your story more intriguing. It's going to once again make your customers feel like they're on the inside super cool club of your brand and that you are telling them insider facts, all those things. Add that stuff to your stories because that is going to help so much, my friend. Okay, if you did enjoy this episode, please share this with a friend who could also use to hear it. If you want to, share it to your Instagram stories and make sure that you tag me at Feel Good Social so that I can see it and reshare it and spread some love right back to you. I am so glad to be in your earbuds right now, my friend. Now go tell some personal stories on Instagram for your brand. Thanks so much for listening, my friend. For show notes and a whole lot of other awesome freebies, visit feelgoodsocial.com. Simply go to feelgoodsocial.com for all the goods.